All right, welcome back to the Colonel and the Coach on Authentic Leadership Podcast. We are very thrilled to be joined today with a friend of mine, Tony Bilich. Tony recently won his third VGA, the Veterans Golf Association Championship, winning it from the Purple Heart Division, which is a story that I'm sure we'll get into here. But yeah, what an accomplishment. And welcome, Tony. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me and looking forward to talking to you guys. And Cam, we go way back, and
We do.
Colonel, we just met, but hopefully this is
We'll be fast
first,
friends.
first of many conversations.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, TB. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Tony, as we get started, again, you said we've known each other a long time back from the UP. And if you could just maybe give a little background of just yourself, the Hancock, Michigan days, and, where you're at now professionally, and then we can jump off from there.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in the UP, Hancock, Michigan, old mining town, middle class family. Really, my dad was a truck driver, cement truck driver later in my life, or later in his life, actually. And my mom worked for the university. Two brothers, same mother, different dad, but grew up together. Both my brothers were extremely good at sports, football, basketball, baseball. It's probably why I chose hockey and golf. Tough to live up to those guys. But, yeah, I just grew up. Parents worked hard. They got divorced when I was probably about 10, but they became better friends. Yeah, I mean, just small town antics, I guess, growing up, competitive. Brother John, really, really good football player, baseball player. Like I said, my brother Ed, really good too. No matter what we did around the house, it was always competitive. So I think that's probably where I get some of my competitive spirit from, is growing up at a very young age. They were older too. So I'm 10 years younger than my brother Ed and about 14 years younger than John. So I was kind of the guinea pig in the backyard. They're trying to learn their curveball on me and, all that type of stuff. So yeah, Hancock High School. I mean, a graduating class of 77 people. Grew up playing golf and a little bit of baseball and hockey mostly. Lived in the hockey rink. Ultimately met my wife at a very young age, playing travel hockey with my brother-in-law. So we started playing at 6 or 7, travel hockey, 60 to 80 games a year, traveling the UP, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and just being kind of a rink rat. And then in the summers, hanging out at the golf course. It's kind of cool to reflect on it now, coming from a small town. Hancock and Houghton is so, such a wonderful area. And as a kid, I don't think you appreciate how beautiful that area is. And yeah, ultimately played high school hockey. I think my dream was to play D1 hockey. Played high school, and then I was young. I was 16 to start my senior year, so turned 17 during my senior year, and then had the dream of playing college hockey. So I ended up playing a year of midget AAA after high school. And that's ultimately where I met Cam. I don't know if he remembers it too much, but he was the goalie for Michigan Tech, wearing number 17. I was a Zamboni driver at the time. I was playing AAA and flooding for Cam all the time. And there was some banter. I don't think he was super impressed with my Zamboni skills that time. And we'd give it back and forth to each other a little bit. So I mean, ultimately that's how I met Cam. And then we started playing golf and stuff together. Played a year at AAA. It wasn't a great year, honestly, and then was trying to just kind of figure out what to do. Ended up going to Northern Michigan and playing golf the year after, so that would have been like time frame. Played golf there, and then a lot of my buddies were joining the military. I was trying to kind of figure out my path and didn't really have a ton of direction, and ended up joining the military with a lot of my friends that I grew up with. Mike Hagan, who I grew up playing travel hockey with, we went to school together. He was a year younger than me, but him and I ultimately decided to join the National Guard in 2006 to be a combat engineer. So 2006, went to basic training, Fort Leonard Wood, AIT. Really didn't know anything about the military, shot very few guns. Probably still to this day, one of my favorite and most proud of accomplishments is I went to Fort Leonard Wood with a boot camp class of probably about 100 soldiers and finished number 1 overall, which was just incredible to me because I knew nothing about the military really, and just honestly signed up for a $20,000 signing bonus, needed some direction, was going to get school paid for and some other things. And my friends were doing it, and went to basic training and just kind of kept my head down and tried to stay out of the spotlight, whether it was good or bad. And, came out of there with like a little bit different experience, and really didn't enjoy the military my first month, I would say, in Fort Leonard Wood, but really, the teamwork and the camaraderie that went along with the military really was something different. I've been on a lot of teams, a lot of successful teams, and that was just kind of another level. Came back, went right to school, and then 2007 was a tough year. My dad got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer early that year. He ended up passing away early in 2007. He was kind of my sounding board for all hard decisions. My mom's a sweetheart, and I love her absolutely to death. But when it comes to hard decisions and getting through tough times, my dad was the man. And losing him in 2007 was tough. And then still going to school, and then late in 2007 we got our orders to go to Afghanistan. So 2008 trained a lot. 2009 spent the year pretty much in Afghanistan, combat engineer, route clearance, traveling the country at 3 miles an hour and looking for roadside bombs one way or another, and came out of that and then went right back to school. 3 semesters, finished school very well. Dean's List the last 3 semesters. I would say all my time before that was kind of just striving to be above 2.0 to get my military stuff and be eligible for the golf team. So my perspective changed a lot. And then 2011 got married, and kind of started my life after the military and school. Got into manufacturing late 2011, Pioneer Metal Finishing. So I was in Detroit for a little while, and then South Carolina. So about a 1.5 year adventure that was. And then I was going back to Detroit, and ultimately my father-in-law called me to join the family company. I was leery. I really have a great relationship with my father-in-law. He was like a second dad growing up when I started playing travel hockey with my brother-in-law Brady from 6 or 7. So I've known him my whole life, and just really didn't want to ruin the dynamic in the family of, working in that environment and just jeopardizing that relationship. But ultimately he convinced me, it's the best job on earth, and got me to Madison. And it wasn't maybe as great as he sold it to me, but what are we, 13 years later, working for the family company, my wife and brother-in-law and I now owning the company, and Craig's retired and second generation. It's been a great experience, and working with my wife and brother-in-law every day is a true blessing, honestly.
TB, you mentioned that. I just wrote it down, and I remember kind of early in your time in Madison, I was coming through there as an assistant coach, and we played the university course there. What's it called?
U Ridge.
Yeah, we played University Ridge. And I remember there was something different. We had played a lot of golf before. We had known each other. I'm a little older than you, but again, what's special about the UP is whether you're older or younger, Thursday night, Saturday tournaments, everybody was together. And just if you could talk about a little bit about that perspective coming back, and I know we'll pull some different pieces of yarn, but just there was, you mentioned the academics. I think I don't want to say stress, whatever. You were always an extremely talented golfer, but you won a lot more after you came back. I'm sure it was probably some perspective of what that pressure was. And I remember talking with you. We played that course, and we talked the whole time, but just if you could maybe just talk a little bit more about kind of how that perspective impacted you, coming back from that.
Yeah, I think, I had to grow up fast. I was, like I said, 2006, I'm trying to figure out life, join the military, show up at basic training. I'm like, what am I doing here? This is crazy. Staying in my lane and just focusing on simple tasks and daily tasks and how to do them my best. And then going through my father passing away in 2007, and then to the tour in 2009, I was forced to grow up really, really fast. Coming back, I just had a different perspective on life. I was kind of a hothead. I wasn't, I had a lot of skill playing hockey and playing golf when I was younger. if the golf round didn't start perfect, I was never great at overcoming that. And you just get a perspective on life after you've seen some stuff, overseas, and you just get a perspective that what is really a problem, in your life. I mean, when you see that and go through that, life slows down a little bit for you. Stress is different. My attitude and patience, I would say, with things, especially golf. Just winning even last week down at Olympia Fields. I was coming off a hamstring injury. My game was kind of unknown. I turned 40 last week, so I guess I can call myself a savvy old veteran. And I'm just a grinder, and it's different than I used to be, and it's great. I take a totally different perspective to golf. I think of it more of a mental journey. You always want to start good. I mean, at least level par, or maybe even start hot. But if you start with a double, just figuring out a way to get back to even par or something like that. So yeah, I relate a lot of that back to my military time and service overseas for sure. And yeah, I mean, it's just a golf round, right? Every stroke matters so much, and I never used to understand that. It was just always full steam and birdies, birdies, birdies. You get in these tournaments and it's different when you have nowhere to hide. You have to put a score on a card, and you might as well try to make it the best one possible. Yeah, it's my perspective's a lot different for sure.
Love it.
I don't pretend to know exactly like how successful your guys' business is and stuff like that, but just from my internet sleuthing, it seems like it's a pretty successful operation that your brother-in-law, yourself, and your wife run. But as a fairly young person in charge of, a company as a co-owner, is there any corollaries from your experiences, not just in Afghanistan, but just your experiences either from training in, the military or pre-deployment stuff that you did, I guess even maybe deployment stuff and all that sort of stuff, and then kind of like what the expectations are to run such a enterprise? I understand that the stress level, obviously, where you are now is vastly different than some of the challenges you experienced in Afghanistan. But I guess if you can give our listeners just, I guess, some insight into some lessons identified that you exported from your time to things you think about today on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think looking back at my service time, especially like 2008, 2009, we had honestly some of the greatest leadership to this day I've ever seen. And a big part of why we went overseas and had a successful tour and came back with everyone. Joe Battisford was at the time young, where we have a lot of young people, and he just pushed training and muscle memory, and just all we wanted to do was like just stop training and relax and play video games or something. And he pushed us in a way and made us uncomfortable. And I didn't understand it. I'm just like, what's going on here? We've marched enough. We've shot enough. We've gone through this plan enough. Like, when is enough? And, it kind of clicked when we were overseas, and things started going sideways ultimately. And you're just muscle memory, and where everything is, and how to react in certain situations. Obviously, it's a little bit different from training to real life when bullets are flying, or the bomb goes off, or whatever it is. But you revert back to how all that training and leadership started, and when you need it the most, you had it. And then one thing too, when I was overseas, I was a specialist. When I was in Afghanistan, I was a gunner mostly the first half of the year. And then through some certain circumstances, our truck commander wasn't in a position to lead our truck. There was some stuff that was going on back home, and he ultimately had to take care of other stuff. So there was an opening in our truck, and I was a specialist, and he put me in charge of gun truck in Afghanistan as a young specialist. And that was true. I mean, I was captains on hockey teams and assistant captains throughout my life. But, ultimately I'm in a war zone as a very young kid specialist. And all of a sudden the truck's handed over to me, and I'm in charge, and I'm buddies with these guys that I'm, now having to lead. And the biggest thing that I tried to do, and to this day I think still holds true, is just lead by example. I mean, not everyone has the same skill set, but be the first one on the truck to get it ready in the morning, and staying late and doing the things that you have to do. So I think that time putting me in that leadership position really said a lot about me that maybe I didn't know, right? So someone saw something in me to put me in charge of that truck when there was sergeants and E5s, E6s sitting in the back of vehicles at times. It really made me feel good that I was doing the right things. Obviously, for him to entrust me with you know, a truck and, a driver, a gunner, and we had 2 Afghan army personnel with us in our vehicle too. So, I mean, I think that all said a lot. And then, you know, to today where our business is at too, leadership, our people and our employees are our most important asset. And we just have to try to, keep it going in the right direction and using everyone's brains and skills and try to figure out how to get people put in positions that make them successful and happy too is the challenge just on a daily basis. I think teamwork and managing people is just it's so challenging. And we have 65 employees right now, and ultimately you have 65 personalities to a certain degree, right? Certain people, some people get motivated different ways, right? And some people need more support. Some people don't want me around all the time and they just want to make decisions and they'll lean on me a couple times a year. And then other people, other junior leaders or foremen or superintendents in our company might want me around more often. So, I mean, managing people and being a leader, it's just, I think being early, doing things that, I'm in the office, right? I'm kind of an office jockey at this point in my life. And construction wise, we have probably 50 that are in the field actually getting after it every day and doing it. I didn't earn my stripes, I would say, in the fireproofing business of what we do now in the field. I came into it later, but I feel like I can relate because I spent 6 years in the trenches in the military doing the same things or similar type of, physical work that their guys are doing now. So yeah, it's leadership and managing personnel is just, it's a never ending task that you just have to you have to stay on top of. And you get joy when you see employees that started as first year hires that are now running crews and have company vehicles, and that's where you find joy and leadership and management from my end, and that's what keeps me going.
Thank you.
TB,
Yeah.
TB, can we, if it's all right, maybe just talk about, I mentioned earlier, you compete in the Purple Heart division, which is, it's pretty rare air. And if you could maybe talk about, I know you and I have talked about it, but just share that experience, what earned that, and maybe a little backstory of how you were awarded the Purple Heart.
Yeah, May 1st, 2009. Ultimately, I was gunning for in a route clearance platoon that was, my truck was ultimately hit by an IED. I was knocked unconscious. Don't remember a ton of what happened around the incident other than I woke up and we were in another firefight. It was a long few day stretch. We went very slow for, we were trying to just do a fairly straightforward mission to a outpost in eastern Afghanistan. And we had our work cut out for us. So it took us like 30 something hours, I think, to go maybe 10 miles the day before, just through some tough terrain, a lot of ambushes, complex ambushes. It was just a day. And then, the next day, ultimately, there's only one way back to our base. So it was no surprise getting back how we had to get back. And I was the fortunate receiver of, an IED. Fortunately enough, our vehicles were made to take blasts. People behind us in our convoy that had softer vehicles like Humvees, they might not have been so lucky. I look at it as we did it, we ultimately did our job. We have to find the roadside bombs one way or another. Hopefully we find them and detonate them under our own handle, but sometimes it takes getting one on your vehicle to ultimately save the people behind us. So yeah, that's what I got the Purple Heart from. And then, related to the Veterans Golf Association, they have multiple divisions of golf. So basically the organization is built around relationships and camaraderie with veterans on the golf course, all different skill levels. So I think the stat this year was about 38,000 members. You play locally throughout the season. I'm in Wisconsin, so the Wisconsin division has probably, 20, 30 events throughout the year, really nice golf courses. So you compete within your state, and then you go to a state championship. Ultimately, if you place well at states, you go to regionals and then regionals to nationals. And typically you end up with between 80 and 100 total competitors at nationals. I think this year there was 16 in like the scratch division, the A division, and then they have I was in the wounded vet A division, which was a scratch open division. And to be in that division, you had to have a Purple Heart. So they have wounded vet A, B, C, and D divisions still. And those are all Purple Heart recipients that are able to, participate and compete for those national championships. So
that's humbling. And as again, you're competing, so you got out of there, you still have limbs and everything, so you're competing out of that division, but you are now the 3-time winner of the event, right? Like, so can you just take us back to the maybe first one, walk us through
yeah,
kind
yep.
of that succession?
Yeah, I heard about the VGA in 2018, and I was kind of, as you know, we're both golf junkies, right? So, I mean, I see veterans, I'm like, well, that's awesome. And then I see Olympic Club. It was the Nationals the first year, and anyone that follows golf knows the history of that place. And I think Webb Simpson won the U.S. Open there, and so I think veterans and Olympic Club kind of drew me in. So I started competing 18. Went through regional states, did the whole thing, and made it out there. No one really knew who I was. I mean, the organization was still, fairly young. And the first day I was at TPC Harding Park, and I went out and shot 67, and people were like, who's this guy, And so I go to Olympic Club with a pretty side, a nice lead. And then I start on one, I birdie one. I'm like, wow, I'm rolling. I might lap the field here. And next thing you know, my world came crumbling down, and I made like consecutive bunkers and bogey streak that I never want to revisit again. But so yeah, 18, I ended up coming in like third or fourth overall. Struggled down the stretch. I mean, struggled with probably pressure a little bit, emotions. I think a lot of it got to me. 19, it was at the Greenbrier, ended up getting all the way back through everything, going to nationals, finished third or fourth there again. Both those years I won the wounded vet A division, which was really good. I still won the Purple Heart, the scratch division, as you'd call it, but didn't get the overall championship, because that's kind of the goal of it, was to win the overall. And that's what gets you, the red jacket ultimately, for winning that. Yeah, and then 20, it was, we all know about 20, was the COVID year, so nothing there. And then 21, it was at Plainfield in Baltusrol in New Jersey, and a couple absolutely great golf courses again. Was first day I was like in, I don't know, second or third, and then to start the back nine on the second day, I was 7 behind the lead. I kind of just thought, I pretty much thought I was out of it. Got hot down the stretch, made 3 birdies at the end, ended up sneaking into a playoff, birdied the playoff hole and won it. So I was like, it was a great experience. Just told me to just keep fighting. Never, every shot counts and never give up, and you never know what's going to happen. And then the following year was at Doral down in Miami, playing through the hurricane. I was down after the first day, but ended up winning, I think, by like 4 or 5. Played some really good rounds and 40-mile-an-hour winds. So it was good to know I had control of my ball in that. Then took a 2-year break. Work's just been busy and life and stuff. So took the last 2 years off, and then got back in this year for Olympia Fields down in Chicago, close to home. So it was fun it's kind of gearing up for it all summer. Ended up tearing my hamstring around the 4th of July. So I had 68 days off the golf course, and then did a crash course the last 3 or 4 weeks, and got ready, and ultimately just getting up and down from everywhere and putting really well is what won that, and staying patient again. Every stroke matters, and you just never know where you're at. I pretty much was behind 3/4 of the championship on Olympia Fields too, and just kind of hung around, and people started making mistakes on a championship golf course, and next thing you know, you got a lead, and then you're trying to hold on to a lead, right?
Well, congratulations. And, again, I'll tell you that myself and our friend Ryan Shanahan, we were living and dying on the scoreboards. I can remember watching your first win in the playoff. And again, Shanny would keep me up to date as to where you're going, how you're doing. And then once we would get the live leaderboards, watching where we can. So it was pretty cool. It was definitely pretty cool just to see your success, again, on a big stage, right? And to do that with, I got to imagine there's a fraternity of people that have served, right? And that's got to be its own sensation.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the national championship they put on is just incredible. And at these venues, I mean, you're going to pairings parties and dinners, and Coach Urban Meyer was there this last tournament for all 3 days, hanging out with the veterans. He walked the back nine with us. I think after I made that putt on 17, he called me a grinder because he was just watching me get up and down from everywhere on the back nine there. But yeah, it's been great. I mean, and just hanging out with veterans and being able to share stories and meeting, people from all walks of life. I mean, everyone there is a veteran. They do have a family division. So if you are a direct family member of a military service personnel, you're allowed to play too. But, mostly it's people that have similar stories or just hanging out with veterans for a few days. Just, it goes a long way. And this national championship will actually be on FS1 Veterans Day. They were there filming for 2 days. So it'll be interesting to watch my scrambling down the stretch.
Well, everybody can look for that short backswing. That is textbook Tony Bilich. The how far do you get it back these days, TB?
It's even shorter than it used to be. Growing up, everyone was like this, you gotta lengthen your swing and do all this stuff. And I'm like, it kind of is what it is. Now John Rahm and Tony Finau, everyone's got these small compact swings. And now it's like, I don't know, maybe I was ahead of the curve way back.
You're ahead of the curve. I'm interested to see how short it is, but there's a lot of power there and obviously a lot of control. So that's great. Boss man, you got anything there? Or?
I just was looking at the results and stuff like that from all the different flights. And I just, as an Air Force guy, I don't appreciate the Army guy taking pretty much crushing all the Air Force guys. And seemingly the Air Force guys have been working too hard lately. So we need to get back to what we were doing apparently back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and whatever, of golfing more than the Army folks. So I don't know what we're doing wrong, but I'm not liking it.
Hey, Tony, I know we talked last week, but we've had some really cool episodes where we've shone a lot of lights on a lot of things. One of them being mental health, moral injury, kind of the real stuff about when these veterans come back. And, the Tailwinds Rants episode still sticks with me. And you mentioned just some stuff that when guys came back, and maybe give you an opportunity just to talk about a couple of your friends and maybe say a piece about, again, just your take on that. Cause I know it is a hot button topic, but for what you guys are asked to do, and maybe welcoming you back stateside and just give you a chance to speak.
Yeah, it's a struggle. I talk about it, we talked about it a little bit last week, Cam, and, I talk about it with other veterans. You train to, ultimately to go get shot at and to shoot back and to pull bombs out of the road and all this stuff. And I'll never forget the first time I got shot at overseas. It was like everything just slowed down. It was like all slow motion. It was like a video game. And, I came over our intercom and I'm like, is this real? This is what we've been waiting for, right? And then you just start reacting. And our job specifically over there, I mean, it's hard to put in perspective, but if you can imagine driving around your neighborhood at, 3 to 5 miles an hour, looking for something in the road, there's a lot of time spent with high attention to detail, but, not much adrenaline. And then all of a sudden something happens. You get in an ambush or, a bomb goes off or something. And then the feeling you get from situations like that is just an out of body, ultimately like a high and a feeling that I think when people return from overseas, you're trying to replicate that with alcohol or drugs or motorcycles or a combination of everything. And there's just not a rush or anything that you can do that's going to get you back into a situation when someone's legitimately trying to take your life from you and what that feeling is like. So it is tough. And I mean, golf's helped me. It's a way to try to, put work aside, and it brings its own set of pressures. And, when Cam's trying to bet me and take $5 off me on, 9-hole matches and stuff, there's a different added pressure. But, figuring out ways to channel some of those urges to maybe get into trouble is the challenge I think that a lot of veterans have. And I talked earlier about when I was put in the leadership position in Afghanistan in charge of a truck. And ultimately I was in charge of two of my best friends at the time. Josh Wheeler was from Hancock, Michigan. My driver of my truck, Bill Mladenoff, was from Ontonagon, Michigan. Met him through the service. I grew up with friends with Josh, and, he wasn't a hockey player, but, kind of this same group of friends growing up. And so it was a big relationship there. And then Bill Mladenoff met in the service, and he was my gunner. So ultimately we were the young trio in charge of this truck, go through some crazy experiences in Afghanistan that you only see and dream of in movies, and ultimately come back from over there. And both of those guys ended up passing away in separate drinking and driving accidents. And, your heart breaks. One, I mean, they were so young. I mean, you're talking early to mid 20s. I mean, the rest of their life ahead of them, and for whatever reason decided to drink and get behind the wheel. And I think about those guys, just all the time. And I think veterans just figuring out avenues to try to get around other veterans, or figuring out ways that gets your mind away from certain things that will just help on the road. And it's a tough conversation. I'm sure the colonels dealt with this a lot too. It's not an easy thing. I mean, you come back from Afghanistan, you're coming back, debriefings and all this stuff, and they ask you all these questions, and you're just like, I don't want to deal with this. I just want to get back to life. And then you're just hanging with your buddies and having a good time. And obviously, so I don't know how to explain it. Some people are really good at coming back and channeling those urges and temptations into productive things, whether it's their family and kids or work or charities or helping people in other ways too. So fortunately, I have an amazing wife, a great family, a really good support system that's able to help me. And I still skate and play hockey and figure out different ways to keep the mental health side of things in check. But yeah, it's a real problem. I mean, the suicides in the military is just a horrible problem right now. And I have a lot of suicide history in my family too. I mean, my uncle committed suicide. Both of his kids ended up committing suicide. We had another suicide as a cousin in our family. So yeah, it's a very touchy subject. It's near and dear to my heart, losing a couple great buddies coming back. You go through all that stuff overseas, and then just to come back, and then, just senseless stuff, and, just so young. I mean, that's the hardest thing. They're in the prime of their lives and just got back from war. And I know they'd be in great spots today if they were still around, because they were both ultimately great people, but hard workers too.
Thanks, TV. Appreciate that.
One thing, and maybe we'll end on a lighter note, but you mentioned your wife, Katie, and I just wonder if you could take a minute. Again, you met her young, been together for, co-own a business. Just give you the floor to praise her, praise your family. Obviously huge support in being able to recover from a hamstring injury, but to go at it, right? Like, you got to go at it for those days. Like, you got to be away, and there's a balancing act for you to go to Olympia or to Dorel, or like, it's not insignificant to leave for certain amounts of time and to have that support throughout the year. And we've talked about it before in different parts of your golf and athletics and things like that. So I just give you the floor to maybe share a little bit more about your bride.
Yeah, I met Katie probably when I was like 6 or 7, honestly, playing travel hockey with her brother, Brady. So she was just always a little sweetheart. She was just always around the hockey rink and everything. So yeah, we started dating in high school, and obviously been together on and off, and a very long time. And she is by far my biggest supporter. I mean, definitely at Olympia Fields last week. I mean, she gets so nervous she can't watch. I'm like, why? I'm like, I don't really get nervous anymore. Like, if I'm not nervous, you're okay. But she walked the front nine of the second day and then had to go to the clubhouse for the back nine. So yeah, she's great. She went on a kind of a unique path to where she's at today too. Graduated high school, started school at Michigan Tech, ultimately ended up taking a pause from that. And in 2008, mostly when I was training for Afghanistan, went out to Arizona, went to cosmetology school. Her dad started a construction company in 79, and her mom owned a hair salon. So both entrepreneurs, and she grew up in that world, and went out to Phoenix and went through the beauty school thing, and came back and was working at her mom's salon. And then she ultimately finished her business degree at Michigan Tech. And I think she wanted to maybe work for the family business, but Craig said no, she had to go get some experience first. So she went and worked for Enterprise rental cars for about a year or two, and then had to come and interview with her dad to get hired into the family business. I think she ultimately had a pretty good interview, but yeah, I mean, right now she's the majority owner of the company, which is really great to see. You know, her dad started it in 79, transitioned a bunch over the years, started as a residential construction, and then kind of morphed into this commercial specialty contracting that we've been doing since the 80s. And they kind of had both divisions going, but what we do now is just specialized commercial construction. So yeah, I mean, she's in the grind every day at work. I'm kind of a napkin and handshake type of guy with work and getting jobs done, which gets me in trouble sometimes because she's a black and white contract. As her business has grown down here, she's really been able to keep it on the tracks just from a compliance and making sure billing's done correct, contracts are correct. From a personnel and human resources side, like everything's just clean, and she's been amazing through that. And then ultimately with golf trips and, like you said, spending time at the golf course, she's willing to put in the extra hours at work or whatever needs to happen. And I have to step away for a little bit too. And Brady, my brother-in-law, like I said, we grew up playing hockey together. He went to Houghton High School. I went to Hancock. So he was a defenseman and I'm the goal scorer, dating his sister in high school. So interesting banter on the ice, as you can probably imagine. But, you know, truly my best friend. I mean, my brother-in-law, every day we're at work together. All three of us think completely different. We manage different. And it's what makes us, I think, a really good team. With all three of us together in the same room, we usually can make a pretty sound decision. You know, all three of us would say the same thing. Our people and our employees are our most valuable asset. And we just work tirelessly to try to keep the company going and give everyone the training and the resources and build a platform for everyone to be as successful as they possibly can. So yeah, it's been cool. She won, I think, Women Owned Business of the Year for construction in Wisconsin this year, which was high praise. And yeah, I can't say enough about her. She's a rock star.
Well, thank you, TB. I'm going to end on this. As you mentioned, we've known each other a long time, and a lot of the time that we've spent together has been on the golf course. And more importantly, it's been in the location of the UP. That was in school. We played in a tournament a couple years ago down in, I think, Wawanawin, right?
Yeah.
Where we did practice rounds and played together. So, you know, just the amount of time we spent, and I'll still think back from a golf perspective, Thursday night leagues followed by scrambles. I don't know if people accurately understand how beautiful the place is. And it's like in the middle of the summer, it's light until well past 10:30. Maybe just give people a quick glimpse of, you know, where you grew up, the UP, and why somebody should visit there, especially in the summertime, because it is a magical place.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to explain. I always do the hand to everyone, right? The UP hand. You know, it's good talking with you, Cam, too, because everyone thinks I'm Canadian. So, you know, it's nice to talk to a fellow Canadian. But
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Uper, you know, growing up in the UP.
And hold on, TB, just for clarification, we should all let everyone know my wife is from about 10 miles north of where you grew up, right? So
Correct.
she's from Hubble. So just to keep everybody in the same geographic, met my wife when I moved to Michigan Tech and I really never left. That's why we spent so many summers there. I was, you know, got married. And so we spent a lot of time there. And, you know, again, so just to keep everybody in the geographics footprint, went to school in Houghton. Tony's from across the bridge. And if you go right and up about 10 miles in Hubble, that's where my wife's from. So keep everybody in the loop. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're all good. Yeah, the UP, it's where we're from, or where Cam spends a lot of time and where I grew up is, you know, a little peninsula way north. I live in Madison, Wisconsin right now. So it's 5 hours basically due north. Rural, I mean, I would say our hometown, Michigan Tech University and the hospital are the primary employers up there. Surrounded by Lake Superior. So it's actually just beautiful, clean, fresh water. You know, it's a valley or whatever you would say that runs between Houghton and Hancock with you know, out-of-towners call it the river, but it's a canal that was kind of man-made back in the mining days a little bit. But yeah, it's just small town USA is what I would say. You know, it's, you know, the bad things about small towns, right? You do anything negative, it seems like everyone knows before your parents do, and all that stuff. But I would say our hometown, or the UP, Houghton Hancock in particular, is hardworking, blue collar, family oriented town, right? Everyone works hard, and then, they live and die kind of by hockey. And Jeff Finger is a local from up there, and Tanner Caro now, who's had a successful career. So it's been really nice seeing some athletes from there make it big time, because I think there's a lot of talent there, but you're kind of isolated. I guess the glorious thing about it is you're isolated and you don't got many tourists coming in, but the hard part is when people that actually have big talents and need to be on display, it's hard to see sometimes. So yeah, I just growing up there, it was just very slow pace of life. Like I said, just blue collar, hardworking. Hockey seems to be life. Skiing, outdoors, snowshoeing, anything you can do outside. It's a pristine place to be, and just a healthy place to be. So I didn't appreciate it much when I grew up. When I moved away and I lived in Detroit and South Carolina, and as I get older now, even we're making it a point to get up there a lot. My mom's still up there. One of my brothers is still up there. His whole family's there. So we try to get up there and spend as much time as humanly possible. And yeah, it's small town, but the competitive nature is probably as high as anywhere. You talk about these Thursday golf leagues. I mean, you'd think people, won the Stanley Cup, right? They would take you down in a scramble, and it's like they've never left Houghton County, I don't think, but it's the greatest. It's a Super Bowl to them, but it's really, really good people. I think it's hardworking America, and as time goes by, I just respect and appreciate home more than I did growing up. And as life keeps going, I want to just spend more and more time up there. Summer, if you're going to go up there, June, July, June can even be sketchy, I guess. July and August is pretty much summer. And winter's 300 inches of snow really is what you're in for. So.
And the summer, like you mentioned, you're in Madison, which is in the central time zone. You go due north and you drive into the eastern time zone. So it's light forever. And again, your golf water in the summertime, I mean, sitting on the deck of the downtowner, I mean, it is light forever.
11 p.m. You're still playing golf.
It's wild. Like, people can't believe it, but I can remember times where, wife's calling, like, where you're at. We're like, oh, we're on 16. And she's just like, it's 11 o'clock at night. So it is a special place.
I laugh though still. So, I mean, we spent a good amount of time up there this summer, and I'm moving pretty early. I'm getting up at 4:30. I'm out of the house 5-ish. I'm getting to work between 5:30 and 6 is like a normal day for me. And you're moving around in Houghton Hancock at 6 in the morning, and it's like the apocalypse. I mean, nothing starts up there till 8 o'clock. I mean, I don't understand how they haven't caught on to, if you start a little earlier, you can finish a little earlier.
Well, yeah, you're going to go back and be the mayor there, TB.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I love it up there. It's a great place definitely to grow up and to look back on it now after living in a city. I mean, spoiled to grow up there.
Well, I will just say thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations on your third VGA title. Again, I don't think it's any small feat. And thank you for your service and, for what you've done. And again, very proud to call you a friend. We got our text chain with Shani that we stay pretty active on. So I'm sure we will continue to talk, but thanks for taking the time to come on, share your story, and let the world know a little bit more about you.
Yeah. Thank you, Cam. And it's been fun following you over the years.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
I like when a goalie makes like 65 saves a night and I can text you and I said, you weren't alone back in the day. Earl, it was great to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll spend some more time talking, I'm sure.